Hi, welcome to the Legislators Lounge. I'm Jim Webb, the host of the show, and my co-host is Brian Chericello. Today with us we have the candidates for the Rockingham County Attorney's Office. And first we have Michael Croce, we have Pat Conway, and we have Jason Grosky. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming by, everybody. Let's start with some introductions so the public will know a little bit about you. We'll start with Jason and we'll work to the middle. How's that?
My name's Jason Grosky. I'm the prosecutor down at the Salem Police Department. I live in Atkinson with my wife and 3 kids. I'm an active community member in the area. I coach youth football and serve on the board of directors of my local youth football league over in the Timberlane district. I'm a Rotarian down in Salem. I'm also the immediate past president of the Greater Salem Bar Association. I'm an elected member of the Timberlane School Budget Committee, and I'm the true outsider running for Rockingham County Attorney.
Thank you. Pat?
Good afternoon. My name is Patricia Conway. I live in Salem, New Hampshire with my husband and my 2 kids. My son's 14, my daughter is 8 years old. And currently I am an assistant county attorney at the Rockingham County Attorney's Office. I have been there for over 15 years, almost 16 years. I feel that I am the best qualified candidate for the position due to my experience and my qualifications. I have been a lead prosecutor in that office for 11 years, supervising other attorneys and staff and prosecuting the most complicated, serious felony level crimes.
And Mike.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Michael Croce, and I'm running for Rockingham County Attorney. I've been a prosecutor here in Rockingham County for the past 23 plus years. First 6.5 was at the county attorney's office, and then the last 17 have been on my own doing Croce prosecution. I prosecute for 7 different police departments here in the county. I'm responsible for managing the business and also for doing the prosecution, so I have a unique position where I have the prosecution experience and I also have the management experience, which I think is necessary to run the Rockingham County Attorney's Office since it is the largest law firm in the county. I live in Fremont with my 3 kids, my 3 cows, and about 40 chickens. Thanks.
Jim, do you want to take the first question? You want me to?
Yeah, no, I'll do the first question.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I have 2 words for all of you, and I'd like you to just talk about it. And the 2 words are Jim Reams. So take that and take it where you want.
Well, there's been a lot of controversy about Jim Reams in the since November. I'm not sure what's true and what's not true, but I am sure that the public perception of the office has been damaged and the level of professionalism in the office has been damaged as well. So aside from what's happening or not happening in the office, I think the real problem is that the office is in a mess right now and it needs someone from the outside to come in with the necessary experience and background in order to get it straight and to get the public trust back.
Well, I think I probably have a very unique and accurate perspective of what's going on in the office since I am in the office and I've been in the office for over 15 years. For the last 6 months or so, things have been pretty bumpy. They've been pretty bumpy. When the Attorney General's office came in and removed Jim Reams from office, there was a lot of uncertainty in our office in terms of leadership. I think the office has lacked leadership for that period of time. And when I say lack of leadership, I mean someone from the top leading or steering the boat, so to speak. So there has been some bumps in the road. At the same time, our office is running very well because prosecutions are continuing to be handled. Cases are being indicted, cases are being tried in courts in front of juries and won every day. For example, I had a trial the last few weeks, State versus Roland Dow, and Mr. Dow was convicted, and now he's going to be serving quite a long sentence, hopefully, in the state prison. So on the one hand, there's been some bumps in the road, but on the other hand, our office is running efficiently, and I'm very proud of the people that I work with. I'm proud to work in the office. I'm proud for what we've done for the citizens of Rockingham County.
Great. Jason?
I think throwing out the question right off the bat about Jim Reams really puts me and Michael in a bit of an interesting position, because there's no mistake that Pat is Jim Reams's hand-picked successor, the person he is out in public pushing for to be his replacement at the county attorney's office, that she's worked for him for 15 years, and in their view, she deserves this appointment as opposed to an election to the county attorney. When Jim Reams came back into office with the deal that he had cut with the Attorney General's office, gave him some very limited authority on what he could and could not do when he returned to the office. One of the things that he could not do was he could not appoint a deputy county attorney. So on the very same afternoon that Jim Reams turns in his resignation, what does he do? He takes Pat Conway and anoints her as the deputy, when he had no authority to do it based on his agreement with the Attorney General's office that was ordered by the court. And the next morning, when the Attorney General's office came in to continue its leadership of the office, what did Pat do? She said, "We don't need you. I'm in charge here." And it took her days before she realized in black and white what the paperwork says, is that she was given an appointment she didn't deserve and couldn't be given to her. But at the same time, she's at her fundraiser and telling everybody who'll listen that she's in charge of the office.
But now, in all fairness, let's look at it, the face of it. I mean, Pat's been in that office, so would there be someone else that would be able to hand over the reins to that would know the ins and outs of that office?
Well, sure. There are people in there. Lisa Ceruli's been there for over 20 years. Brad Bolton's been there longer than Pat Conway. Howard Helridge has been prosecuting for almost 30 years. There are plenty of people.
Well, I have a question with that respect. Pat, you're the senior county attorney right now. How long have you been the senior?
Well, how we refer to the position is lead prosecutor or lead attorney, not necessarily
Right.
senior
Yeah.
assistant county attorney, because as Attorney Croce said, there are a number of attorneys in there that I guess I would refer to as senior assistant county attorney because they've been there for a long time. But I have been a lead prosecutor since 2003, so since 2011. But I would like to address what my opponent said about my being anointed deputy county attorney. I was in trial for the last 2 weeks in State versus Roland Dow, and I came downstairs around 4:30 that afternoon, whatever day it was, and was emailed and was told that I was now the acting deputy county attorney. As you can imagine, I had my plate pretty full that day and those last prior 2 weeks due to the trial that I was in. And that night when I went home, as I normally do when I'm in trial, I worked late at night on the case, preparing for the next day. And I did not have time to go back and read the agreement between Jim Reams. That's not what my concern was. My concern was doing what was best for the citizens of this county and putting a bad person behind bars. So when I came in the morning and I was scheduled to meet with an expert witness at 8:30 in the morning to have a trial preparation meeting, I was confronted with the Attorney General's office questioning me about this. I was not at that point in time, I didn't have the agreement in front of me until they provided it to me. Again, what was important to me at that point was winning this case. So when I was confronted, I knew that I had been appointed or nominated by Jim as being the acting deputy county attorney. I simply wanted some time to think about it. I was notified by the county commissioners through a letter that was emailed to me that Mr. Reams did not have the authority to do that. And I accepted that. As soon as I got that letter, I went to Attorney Buffetti when my trial was over and things had settled down, and I let him know that I understood that, and I wanted to do what was best for the office, and if you need anything from me, just let me know, and I'll be there.
Right.
So that's my position with regard to that.
And so-
It would concern me that an order comes out in Superior Court that says what the extent is of your boss's authority, someone you've worked for 15 years, and I can understand being distracted in trial. I've been distracted in trial before, but it also means you're uninformed and you had no idea what that order said. And Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, did you have an idea as to what the order said when Pat was appointed as the deputy?
When Jim got put back in the office, I think it was widely known he had no authority to do anything. It was pretty clear from the order.
Right.
I think what the order said was that Jim could not appoint a deputy county attorney, but that he could appoint someone to have all the duties and responsibilities of a deputy county attorney. So I guess what you have to look at that point is, what does acting deputy county attorney mean? Does it mean a person who has all the duties and responsibilities of the deputy county attorney, or is it actually the deputy county attorney? And frankly, what I hoped that I could do was provide some leadership from the office in a time where we haven't had that. And I think it's important for our office to have a voice at the county commissioner meetings, at the delegation meetings. And for 6 months now, for the most of that time frame, the voice has been an assistant attorney general. And while I appreciate what they have done for our office, they are not going to be in the office a year from now or 6 months from now after the election. They don't have the kind of interest in this county and the citizens of this county and the people in our office that someone within our office does have. And I wanted to provide a leadership role. I was told I couldn't, so I haven't.
Now, I just wanted to follow up on that, on the same line here.
Sure.
So as someone that's running for that position, can you see where some people may think that it's kind of an unfair position because you're there as the acting and you're also running for that position? I mean, can you see the other side of that?
Yeah, I can certainly see that, but again, it wasn't the county attorney. I wasn't deemed to be the interim county attorney. It was a deputy county attorney position. So I think it's a bit different because I would be assisting whoever the interim county attorney was.
Okay.
Well, as I understood it, he appointed you deputy county attorney and also said you were in charge, which meant there was not going to be anyone but you running the office, is what I read in his letter. That was my understanding.
Okay, and then as the public should know, what's happened since is I know that the delegation is going to be meeting on June 30th.
Executive committee will be meeting
Right.
I'm on the executive committee, and it'll be meeting this Friday.
Right. Okay. Jim, you have another question?
Yeah, I wanted to get away from the he said, she said part of the question of the subject, and I will point out that apparently the county attorney's office has had an increase in prosecutions. We've gone from roughly, 1,600 up to 2,100. So in that 6-month time period, apparently it didn't really affect the efficiency of the office, I would think, with Jim being replaced by Attorney Buffetti.
Well, that's counting cases, that's not counting defendants. So you could have one defendant that has 100 charges against them. That would boost that number. The real number you need to look at is how many defendants are being indicted, because that tells you how hard they're working.
Right.
Is that number different than,
Yes,
than what's
that number
than
is
20
much lower. That number is somewhere between 1,200 and 1,500.
Is that pretty much the same as it's been in the past years, or is that something that's
almost
crime's gone up?
Well, no, crime has gone up, but the county attorney's office doesn't indict more cases than they did back when I was in the office back in 1997. That's about the same number of defendants we did back in 97 when there was only 9 people in the office. Now you've doubled the office size, but you haven't doubled the amount of people you're indicting, which means either they're not taking as many cases as they should, or crime's gone down, and I don't think crime's gone down.
And I can tell you, being the prosecutor in Salem, crime has undoubtedly not gone down. It continues to climb every year. And the further we get into the heroin epidemic that we're all suffering from right now, that crime is only going to continue to climb, and we're only going to see more and more serious crime as time goes on. As a Salem prosecutor, we're down on the front lines in Salem of the crime that moves up from Massachusetts, up from the valley into Rockingham County. And I could tell you very sincerely that that number is not steady, and it's certainly not shrinking.
I find it really interesting that my two opponents are experts in the area of what is going on in the county attorney's office when they don't work there. One of them has never worked there, the other hasn't been in the office for, I think, 15 years or so. I can tell you that from 2012 to 2013, the cases that we prosecuted increased by 20%. The numbers that you just read were generated by the Assistant Attorney General, Jim Buffetti, who has no reason to pad the numbers or to make something up. The cases have increased. They have increased. That's a fact. In terms of the efficiency of the office, again, we have a number of hardworking, dedicated attorneys in our office who work really hard to achieve justice and to give victims of crime justice, and that's what I do. That's what I would continue to do as the county attorney.
And that's also something we all do as prosecutors. That's in our credo. That's why we're in the jobs that we're in. We're not in this job just for the sake of trying to get attention for ourselves. What Pat's talking about is no different than what Michael and I do every day. And I agree, the county attorney's office has a number of capable, great prosecutors, great employees there, and there are great employees there that need to be led and need to be taken in a different direction than what's happened over the course of the last several years when Pat Conway's been up there touting herself as a lead prosecutor or as a senior prosecutor, titles that don't actually exist, but they make her position sound a lot better.
Well, you don't have to be in the county attorney's office. I'm in 7 towns that deal with the county attorney's office, Pat, and we're sick of getting cases just dumped back on us time and time again that we send to you guys, and then you guys decide there's not enough evidence to prosecute, and you decide to send it back to the town and say, handle it in district court. Well, Pat, if there's not enough evidence for you to go forward, how is there enough evidence for me to go forward in district court? The problem is there is enough evidence, and you guys just don't like to take the tough cases. You dump them on us, so unless there's a confession, most of the time, you guys dump them back on us. That's what's happening up there.
I disagree with that, and again, I'm not sure which towns that you prosecute for. The towns that I prosecute for, that I'm the lead attorney in, are the Seacoast area police departments. There's 10 of them. And I can assure you that we are not kicking cases back to those departments where there is enough evidence to go forward. And I can assure you that we take cases where there are not confessions. In fact, I tried one 2 weeks ago or a week ago. So I'm not sure which departments you're dealing with and which lead prosecutor handles the departments you're dealing with, but it's not me.
Actually, it is you. Greenland, Kensington, Rye, Stratham, Newcastle, it is you.
And I'll tell you, my experience
I want to address that. If there was a case that you had an issue with, I have never once heard from you. You never picked up the phone, you never called me, you never said, hey, we have an issue with this, can we address it? Because if you had done that, I would have talked with you about it. I think that we all have the same goal here. We do, we all have the same goal. I want justice for the citizens of this county, and you do too. If you had picked up the phone and called me, we could have worked that out. So my point is there has to be some communication. If there's no communication from the other side, then I'm not necessarily going to know.
Well, we do actually complain. We used to complain to Tom Reed and we used to complain to Jim, and we never got anywhere.
And my experience is different than Michael's experience. What I'm not finding in Salem is cases being kicked back to Salem. That's not my experience, and I think I efficiently do a good job of finding the felony cases that are the good ones that are really worth pushing for, sending those up for indictment, and kind of the ones that are lesser, dealing with those and not burdening the county attorney's office with those lesser cases. My experience with the county attorney's office is that not in all cases, and I'm not painting with a broad brush here, but the problem that I have is there is a greater interest in conviction rates and how many convictions we can score versus focusing on the worst criminals, some of the worst crimes, and focusing attention there. I'm seeing cases that get resolved after motions to suppress on deals that are less than what I could have given 6 months earlier in district court. If you tell me 6 months earlier in district court, you know what, take that deal and do it now and save us all the expense of prosecuting all these cases, that's what I would do. But my experience isn't cases being kicked back. It's an issue with how cases are being dealt with once I get in the office.
Okay, I want to change it up a little bit. So if my question will be, if you're elected to the county attorney's office, what's the first thing you're going to change in that office? And we'll start with Mike.
First thing I'm going to change is the structure of how cases are dealt with in the office. Right now they have areas 1, 2, and 3. You get a vastly different result if your case is in area 1 than if your case is in area 3 with the same exact facts, with the same exact backgrounds. I'm going to create major crime units so that any case that sexual assault would go to the sexual assault unit within the county, so you're not picking. So you don't get stuck with the people in your section. You get the major crime unit of sexual assault. I would also create an internet crime unit, and I would also create a drug unit. And then the 4th unit would be the misdemeanor appeals, because misdemeanor appeals over the last 4 years has taken up half of the jury trials that the office does. So I would change that immediately, appoint people in charge to be in charge of those areas, and then fill in the rest of the people underneath them to answer to them.
Pat?
One of the things that I would do, and I've talked about this before, is I would institute a training program for the newly hired assistant county attorneys. We don't have a training program now. I think that we need one. The public defender's office has one. It's a statewide program. It's a 6-week intense program. I think it puts our young prosecutors at a serious disadvantage, and I think we need that program. I don't think it would cost any money if we reached out to other county attorneys across the state and recruited the most talented prosecutors to train the newly hired assistant county attorneys. That's one thing that I would do. Additionally, I would reach out to every police chief in the county and chat with them about what their experience has been like with our office, to make sure that they're happy, to make sure that the lines of communication are open, and to make sure that it is a true partnership between the police departments and our office. That's the way that it should be. I'd like it to be that way, and I don't see why it can't be that way. So those were a few things that I would do. There's many, many more.
Yeah, I'm sure. Jason?
I'm not a person that ever pretends to be the smartest guy in the room, and I don't pretend to be, with the 5 of us, the smartest person in this room either. My intention going up to the county attorney's office, the very first thing is to try and get people in that office moving in the same direction. You cannot row a boat forward if you have 2 people rowing in one direction and 1 person rowing backwards. The boat just doesn't move well enough. And you need to find out who are the people that are passionate about their job, who want to be there, who want to stay there, and who is going to be on a team. I am a team leader. That's what I want, is to make sure we have a team moving in the same direction and to improve the morale problems that are up there right now. Because right now, you have a factioned office up there, and there's an office that's split, and you have the Jim Reams people and supporters that are in one side, and then the other people that are, however it is that you want to characterize it, victimized or otherwise, are in a different camp. And then you might have a 3rd camp over here. But that's a major problem, and that's something that we all expect from time to time in police departments that are in different factions, but not in a prosecutor's office. Everybody needs to be on the same page. I agree with Mike. Part of my plan is to see what's the best way to organize that office. And one of the things that I want to create is a drug unit with at least 1 key prosecutor that's focused on drug cases, 1 on sex cases, and 1 on fraud. Because I think those are 3 hugely important areas. And when I'm talking about drug cases, that's not just going after people who are addicts in simple possession. That's making sure we're focused and we know what we're doing in terms of going after dealers, especially heroin dealers. That's important. But the biggest thing that I want to do at the county attorney's office is restore credibility, and I think that's sorely needed based on what's going on.
All right, well, I'd like to, well, I don't know, you probably all know this, but I'll ask, since Pat, you're in the middle, I'll ask Pat. What's the pay for the county attorney? Is it appropriate? Do you feel it's appropriate?
I don't think it's appropriate, and the reason I say that is, comparatively speaking, when you compare the salary that a prosecutor makes, not just in our office, but I think in many prosecutorial offices across the state, to a private sector attorney who may defend criminals or who may work in the civil arena of law. I think what we do as prosecutors is very important. It's important because what we do helps keep our communities safe and a great place to live and raise a family. And for that, we should be paid commensurate to what other attorneys are making in the state, whether it's a prosecutor or a private sector attorney, and that doesn't happen. And unfortunately, because that doesn't happen, what occurs is that our office becomes a training ground for new lawyers who want to get trial experience, and they'll get trial experience, they'll become a very effective attorney and prosecutor, and then they'll leave the office because they can't, they've hit a plateau and they can't get any higher.
I'd like to just verify that what you said is correct. Being on the executive committee, we've heard this many, many times, that the turnover rate is very high, and they're trying to keep people there in the office. So that's why I asked the question. Like us as representatives, we don't basically get paid, but you actually will.
I think the pay is fine. In fact, it should be right where it is. You can't compare public sector jobs and private sector jobs. Those people out in the private sector have to produce, have to bring in the business, then have to have an overhead, they have to make budgets, they have to do all sorts of things to create the work for themselves, so they should enjoy the fruits of their labor. The people in the county attorney's office, they're getting paid, I think, rather well. And if the pay was a problem, you wouldn't have people like Lisa Cerulli, who's been there for over 20 years, Howard Hellrich, who's been a prosecutor for 30 years, I think, and other people that have been there for 10 plus years. The problem is they're not leaving because of money, they're leaving because of the atmosphere and the hostile work environment that's there. That's why they're leaving.
And just to echo that, I don't see a problem with where salaries are at the county attorney's office, and certainly the county attorney is not a underpaid position. The delegation just voted in the last month to increase the salary for the county attorney. Thank you for doing it. I'm not sure that you needed to, because at the salary that job is advertised at, you've got 5 people running for it. There's no shortage of people that are interested in leading. And I can speak on this perhaps better than anyone on this panel. I was in the private sector and went to law school at night with a dream of being a prosecutor. That's the job I always wanted. I had a family at home, 3 kids, a mortgage to pay. My first job as a prosecutor, I made $37,500 a year. And I took that job because I loved prosecuting and I wanted the experience. And just because the salary was low, didn't chase me away. I'm still here and I want to do more.
Let's talk, because I am on the county attorney side of things at the state level. One of the things that we looked at was the matrix of the pay scale, okay? And in years 1, 2, and 3, it looked like Rockingham County was probably the highest in the state. But years 4, 5, and 6, it looked like maybe Hillsborough County was a little bit more competitive. So my issue was, are we training these attorneys? They're getting the training and the benefit of 1, 2, 3 years, and then they're like, well, I think it's time to move on to Hillsborough County. That's where I thought I saw an issue, but tell me if that's wrong.
And that has happened. We have lost several prosecutors to Hillsborough County, at least 3 that I can think of within the last couple of years. And I know, my opponents will blame that on the morale. And again, it's been difficult. At least the last 6 months, it has been difficult in the office. But part of it is the pay. I know prosecutors in our office who have to get, and these are the attorneys who are, just hired. Yeah. They have to get a second job to make ends meet. And to me, that's a shame, and it's a shame because they should be devoting their time to prosecuting the criminal cases. I go home at night and I work on my cases, and when I'm in trial, I'm working a lot, and these prosecutors should be dedicating their time to winning these cases, to achieving justice for the citizens in our county, and they shouldn't have to work a second job.
But Pat, now at the entry level, it looks like Rockingham County for years 1, 2, and 3 are the highest. So having said that, I don't know I don't know what the issue is. I don't know if it's maybe mixing up that salary a little bit and changing that matrix where it's not as high in the beginning and even it out a little bit more. I don't know, but
Well, maybe you do need a bit of a redistribution of wealth, and maybe it is too high in years 1, 2, and 3. And maybe that's why Rockingham's getting prosecutors that need training that they're not getting when they walk into the county attorney's office because they're brand new and green out of law school. Maybe those prosecutors in reality should be starting in Coos County, in Belknap, in somewhere else in the state, and then being recruited down to Rockingham where we deal with a lot more, not to say that there aren't serious crimes all over the state, but the proportion of great serious crimes. Rockingham's an absolute hotbed and should be a desirous place for any prosecutor in this area to want to work. If you talk to the prosecutors that have left Rock County over the course of the last couple of years and fled to Stratford, for instance, you don't hear that I went to Stratford because it's better paying and the pay was so much more worthwhile. That wasn't the issue.
Well, I think you have that problem. I mean, law enforcement has that problem all the time. For the first 3 years, they have to pay to get that guy certified, which is like $60,000. Then after 3 years, their contract is up, and then they go either somewhere else for higher pay. If a prosecutor gets to year 4, 5, and 6, and they want to leave for a couple extra $1,000s, then I don't want them in the office. If they're not interested in working for us for $2,000 less, then go.
right. The only question is that the training's expensive, as we all know. You know, to train somebody and then watch them go after years 2 and 3, it's tough because that's what we keep continually doing. Is
Especially if you bring them in at a higher rate to begin with than the other counties.
Yeah, but there's no extra cost of training them because how I learned was somebody who had 10 years, I would sit next to them when I was new.
Okay.
And I would learn how to do a trial. And then at the next trial, he would give me one witness to do it, and he would explain everything. And so after the first 6 or 7 months, we would switch places, and I would do more and he would do less until I actually did everything and he did less. And then they let me go on their own. But it took like a year to learn that. But that doesn't cost the county any money.
I mean, that's
They're
the issue
doing
with,
it anyway.
That's the issue with prosecutors' offices all over the country. That's not the issue with Rockingham. They come in, they get their experience in prosecution, and then they chase the dollars on the defense side.
Right.
Rockingham's no different than that, and that's always going to happen. But what you have here is 3 people who have decided we're prosecutors, that's exactly what we want to do, and we're not chasing the defense dollars. Right. But again, that's always going to be there. Yep. You can't compete with that.
Yeah, I have a question here. Now, all 3 of you, I'm going to change it up a little bit. All 3 of you have said that you'd probably have some sort of restructuring or reformat to have departments do different things. Generally, when you do stuff like that, it costs money. Have you even thought of that, or because right now the county, Rockingham County is very efficiently run, and we try, like anything that comes before us on the executive board or the delegation is usually like pulling teeth. So I just thought, I wanted to ask if you thought of how you might do this under the current budget.
Under my proposal, there's not going to be any additional cost. You already have 3 people that are getting paid more right now because they're in charge of areas 1, 2, and 3. So that system is already set up. I'm just replacing areas 1, 2, and 3 with county-wide areas. So I'm not going to cost the taxpayers any more money. Mine's going to be a cost-neutral change.
I think for me, the training program that I talked about, I don't think that would cost money either. I mean, we would just need a place. We could do it in the grand jury room in the Superior Court. But additionally, I think there will be times where we need to spend money in order to save money. For instance, the drug court has not been all that successful so far. From what I understand, there's 5 graduates in a period of 2 years or so. But I think that if we invest in that program and really look at what works, the national statistics show that ideally that program works and it reduces recidivism, but we have to have the money to make it work appropriately, to have the team involved. But in the end, that would save the county money because we wouldn't have these people incarcerated that, may not necessarily need to be incarcerated if they get the rehabilitation. So I think there will be some instances where we need to spend money to save money. I also think that we need to have someone in the office who is charged with the responsibility of writing grants or looking for grant money for alternative sentencing types of programs. I think that that's something that we really haven't done in the past. I think it's worth looking into. And I think that, that could help in terms of funding these programs initially, and seeing if they work. And if they work, then I think the taxpayers would be willing to fund them to save money in the future.
I foresee a point that when I'm county attorney, you folks on the delegation will be hearing from me in some capacity, because one of the things I want to do, whether it's directly out of the county attorney's office or if it's in the umbrella of county government, is to somehow have some type of grants coordinator. Now, I don't know whether that means having an employee who is a grants coordinator or subcontracting with somebody who, for the county attorney's office, for the House of Corrections, for the sheriff's department, knows where the grants are, they're experienced, they can go out and chase these grants, and maybe at no cost to the county, they end up essentially getting a commission off of the grants that they chase. I'll tell you, I was surprised to find out that the county doesn't have any such person, because grants today are not what they were 10 years ago, they're not what they were 20 years ago. But there are still grants to be chased after, and I think it's important to try and have a person efficiently to chase after that money, because there are a lot of different programs we can and should be doing that a county attorney should be taking the lead on to try and create. And when we use the word recidivism, it's a nice catchword, but what we're really talking about is trying to limit the number of people that we see day one, and then they're back with a new problem on day two, in day three. Try and find ways to get at those people so you're not dealing with those repeat criminals the rest of their career. Try and find an alternative program that can get the message to them, because you can't arrest your way out of it. And if you don't try and find a way to stop these people down here and try some new creative approaches rather than trying to convict everybody and lock everybody up, you'll see those guys for the rest of your careers. And prosecutors have enough job security without needing to create ways to generate more job security.
Let's talk about, we touched on the heroin issue. We all know that this is getting out of control. And what's happening, we've seen it in Derry quite a bit, is a lot of daytime burglaries with people in the house. It's a scary proposition, and some of these folks are looking for money for heroin. I mean, what do we need to do countywide to help stem this problem?
Well, I think what you need to do is be open to alternative sentencing. Not so much set up the program, but if you have someone that it's their first offense or maybe a minor record, make them go out, get into a program, and you hold the case over their head. As long as they finish the program, do what they're supposed to, and don't get in any more trouble, then it can go away at the end of the program. But just to convict them and lock them up is not the answer, but you need the carrot and you need the stick. I would not just place stuff on file. I wouldn't just continue it for a year. I would make them sign like a confession or a stipulation of fact, so that if they did screw up in the 9th month or the 10th month, I don't have to drag everyone back, try to find all my witnesses and have a trial. I would have a stipulation to the elements of the offense, and we would go right to sentencing.
With regard to a burglary, especially if someone is at home, I think that is a safety issue, and I think we should be treating those crimes different than, say, a straight theft or shoplifting, or some kind of theft that doesn't involve a safety issue. I mean, that kind of thing, you could be placing a citizen in this county in some serious danger. I have a case right now that I'm prosecuting where a woman was home at night and some burglars came in and stole from her when she was sleeping. And she is devastated by this, and she does not feel safe in her home anymore. It's an elderly woman who lives alone. So I think that we do need to have these rehabilitation programs. We have to balance that and try to rehabilitate the defendants. But in a situation like that, I think that that type of person needs to serve some time in jail, at least. And also combine with that sentence a rehabilitative aspect, perhaps parole, perhaps probation, with a drug treatment program and a probation officer to follow up on and to make sure that that person is going through with that treatment. But I think there are some crimes where we need to make sure that there's punishment and not just rehabilitation. I think the combination of both would be more effective in terms of hopefully sending a message to that person, but also rehabilitating them so we don't see them again, hopefully, when they get out of jail.
What we're talking about is separating out what we all do every single day, but doing it the right way. Someone breaks into a house, has a heroin addiction or not. I don't care if you're 17 years old and you've never been in trouble before, you've never spoken to a police officer before. You break into that guy's house, daytime, middle of the night, as far as I'm concerned, you need to go to jail. No doubt about it. But that person gets treated differently than a person who's an addict who's saying, I'm an addict, I have a heroin problem, I want help. Those are the people we need to be trying to help, because those are the people that we want to try and keep from becoming the person who's breaking into houses. And the county attorney himself perhaps cannot do it alone, but needs to take a lead, pushing the delegation. You all are state reps, you're in the legislature, you help control money in the state. One thing that's drastically needed in New Hampshire, and unfortunately it costs money, is treatment opportunities. We have so few treatment opportunities for heroin addicts, for people who desperately are seeking help. And New Hampshire, in a way, is great that they put a burden on people, that the responsibility is yours, but that's not helping with the heroin epidemic, and that's why we're being run over by addicts who have progressed from the point of being addicts to being dangerous criminals.
All right, I'm going to have to cut in a little bit here because we're actually running out of time, believe it or not. But I believe I believe in truth in sentencing myself, and I don't, you know, as far as the treatment. But that's me. So we'll give you a couple, you know, maybe about a minute or so each to just do a closing statement, if you'd like. Might as well.
Went first the last time.
I think.
Just do the opposite.
Yeah, we'll let Jason.
I think I had last word the first time around, so.
You go first, Jason.
Well, thank you all for taking the time. Those of you in Derry, Greater Derry, Rockingham County, and wherever in the world you might be happening to watch us on YouTube, I appreciate it very much. Again, my name's Jason Grosky. I'm the prosecutor for the Salem Police Department. I work hand in hand with police officers every day in the busiest police department in Rockingham County. I know very clearly what's happening in Rockingham County because we see it so much in Salem firsthand. And anything that happens in Salem progresses its way up to Windham, Derry, Londonderry, and points beyond. And unfortunately, Salem ends up being a great conduit for a lot of the crime that progresses up through the county. But the reason why I'm asking you to vote for me is a couple of different reasons. But one of them, I promise you as county attorney that I am going to work my tail off for you as county attorney. I am a prosecutor through and through. I'm a hard worker. I'm a team player. But in addition to being a team player, I am a leader. I lead by example. And nobody is going to question my ethics and integrity because I put it out there every day and I show you exactly what I've got. You have a question for me, you're concerned about something, ask me. I answer questions. I don't duck things. I don't duck issues. I deal with them straight hand. In this race for county attorney, I am the only true outsider on the Republican ballot. I'm not tied into the office. I've never worked there. I've never worked for County Attorney Reams. I've never been there. I don't have ties in the office. I'm not worried about the personalities up there. And one thing I'm very much not concerned about is the way business has always been done. I promise to go in there, give the office a clean start, a fresh start, try and rebuild and restore credibility up in the county attorney's office. And I need to do that with the help of police officers throughout Rockingham County. I will not be a county attorney that just has contact with police chiefs across the county. I'm going to build a law enforcement team and be sure that there is no line between the Rockingham County Attorney's Office and law enforcement in Rockingham County. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to hopefully securing your support and your vote because I want to earn it.
I hope that the citizens of Rockingham County will vote for me because I am the most qualified person for this position. I have dedicated the last 15 years of my life to the citizens of Rockingham County, to obtaining justice for the citizens of Rockingham County. I have worked very hard at that. I'm an aggressive trial attorney, I'm a supervising attorney, and I hope that my work the past 15 years counts for something for the citizens. Additionally, again, I have the experience supervising people. I have conducted evaluations. I have trained prosecutors. Additionally, I have helped with the budget in terms of reviewing it and making suggestions to the deputy county attorney and the county attorney. If you want someone that can enter the office, hit the ground running, and know exactly what to do and how to prosecute the cases and how to manage the staff, that is me. And that is why I'm asking for your vote and your support.
Thank you. If there's any time left after Jason. I ask for your support as well. I have been a prosecutor here in the county for 23 years, And I think what the voters need to do is really compare. There's 4 people on the Republican side running for Rockingham County Attorney. Compare their experience side by side. Compare their records side by side. And what you'll find is that although Pat's been in the office for 15 years, I did more jury trials than she did in 6.5 years. And you'll find Jason, who works very hard, has never done a jury trial in his life. All the office does is jury trials in front of 12 citizens of this county to convict people on major, serious crimes. So what the voters of the county need to do is pick the best person to do that. I have the most experience, and I also have management experience. Like I said, it's the largest law firm in the county, and someone has to run it, and someone has to know how to run it, and I do. And I will be ready on day one.
And Mike, you're uninformed about my record. I tried jury trials for 3 years inside an inner city. I've done many jury trials in inner city crime, gang crime, drug crime. So I'm sorry you're uninformed about my record, but I'd be happy to fill you in.
We'd like
Well,
to
thanks.
cut it off at that because we're running out of time here and we do have to keep to the time limit. Okay, this has been the Legislators Lounge. You could find us on YouTube at Legislators Lounge. We have a website called derrylounge.com, which you can also find us on. And you can find us on Facebook if you look up Legislators Lounge. Once again, thank you for watching, and until next time.